Hello there everybody, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays Grounded, where we of course are learning more about nature, especially the miniature world, by playing this amazing game. Now we are doing a few things today. We are going to end with a little special surprise, yeah, and I'm sure if you look at the thumbnail you'll know what it is. But for now, the first thing we are going to do is to actually go and start one of the mixers. The first mixer around here, the sandbox one, which is not the easiest one to start with, but I'm pretty sure, I hope at least, that we will be able to do this one. It is great to be back with you guys though. It's the first episode I've recorded in more than a month, so yeah, let's hope it all goes well. And I am just going to open up the doors here. As you can see, I have prepared a bit by making some mushroom walls. Whee! That was a flying away. By making some mushroom walls over here, which will hopefully protect the mixer over here. Now, of course, I was hoping to have 2 episodes this week. However, you know, if you've been away from work for a month while gallivanting all over the country, hello there, then when you get back, of course, you need to do or catch up on quite a lot of work. And so I've unfortunately only got 1 episode this week, but hopefully I will be able to do 2 episodes again next week. That is the hope, at least. Now, in order to do these mixes, of course, the best is, especially if you're a single player, my wife and I, we have done this without building stuff, but I'm going to have to build this because I have to run around to the other side sometimes to go and kill some of the antlions that are over there. I'm not sure whether it's going to work well on this side, unfortunately. We're going to have to see. But in order to do this, I have, of course, got my I've got my aphid slippers on as well. Well, now I have got my assassin's armor completely on, now that we have made that last time. I also have the salt morning star over here, which is a level 7 one, as you can see there. So that's also hopefully going to help. I'm also going to put on Thor's pendant over here, because I'm not going to be flying around. I am actually going to need the extra damage that it does. We're not going to go for natural explorer. We don't need Mithridatism, and we're also not going to use Apex Predator because we're not going to be using the weapons made from the boss materials. We are, however, going to do Guard Dog because that's a very useful mutation to use when you are defending something like the mixers, and we have Guard Dog because we have done the Coltana defense. So that one, yeah, that's what we're going to be using. We're also going to use Trapper Peeper. I think it just increases the likelihood of getting critical hits against things that you have a card for. Of course, Coup de Grace is just invaluable, as well as Meat Shield. And I think we're going to go with Buff Lungs, just so we do not run out of stamina while defending this mixer. Now, let's hope this works, however. So let's have a look in here. We've got 3 rings of walls. 2 of them have got doors in for me to just close when I run out. And hopefully this will be enough to defend the mixer against, well, in this case, it's going to be antlions that will be coming our way. So let's do this and hope for the best. Okay. Close that door. And close that door. Yes, so the enemy is on its way, which will be antlions. Okay, they are on the other side. Aha, found you. No, no, no. Luckily, the Salt Morningstar really is quite effective against them. Now I've got my aphid slippers on, of course, again. Now, this means they should come from this side. Oh, they're on the inside. Oh, no. Why are you on the inside here? Okay, so maybe it doesn't quite work with things like this. That's burrowing. But let's hope we can defend against these guys. Hello, I see you. Okay, so remember, antlions, these are just the larvae of the massive predatory things known as actual antlions. So these are just the antlion larvae. Now, during my trip past month, I did see quite a few antlions, which was also quite amazing. They're usually attracted to light at night, which of course makes it easier to spot them at night when they are running around or flying around your campsite. Not very good flyers. Now, they are their closest relatives, would of course be the other Neuroptera. Where are you? Oh, here you are. Hello there. Hey. I'm going to beat your head that's poking through my wall, okay? That is what we're going to do here. There. Now, the closest relatives would be the other organisms in Neuroptera, the nerve-wing insects. That's what Neuroptera means. It is a little bit more hectic than I remember. And in the Neuroptera, their closest relatives would be the owl flies, which are a group of very weird, shaggy-looking, antlion-looking things. But apart from that, their other closest relatives would then, of course, be things like lacewings. Now, antlions are quite amazing, and I can't remember what I did tell you and what I didn't tell you, because I talked about antlions during the episode that, I lost as a result of power outage. But antlions like these guys here will remain larvae for up to a few years if necessary. Their growth rate will depend on how much food they actually get. If they are in an area with a lot of food, so like for example close to an ant's nest, they will of course get a lot of food, and that will mean that they will grow very quickly. If however there's a shortage of food, they do have, or they can have, an extremely slow metabolism. And so they can actually remain relatively dormant for an extended period of time. And it can take a few years for them to actually become adults, which I think is quite amazing. The thing is then that when they do become adults, they will remain adults for a very short period of time, 25 to 45 days on average, and that's going to be it. Then they die. One of those little organisms, shame that they spend so much time as juveniles and then so little time as adults. But really quite amazing creatures. I really, really love them. And you may recall this from a previous episode. They are very weird in that the juveniles here lack an anus altogether. They do not have a way to actually get rid of waste. As I get attacked by these ones here. And I'm just going to block that. Great stuff. Aha. You are no match for the Salt Morning Star, my friend. As I was saying, they actually have no way to remove waste from their body because they don't even have an anus. And so what they will do is they will store as they grow larger. Hey, we did it! As they grow larger, they store all their metabolic waste, which then they will use some of it to spin a cocoon when they then want to pupate and metamorphose into an adult. As we get, how much? 2,000 raw science. Well, that's not too bad. That's great. As I was saying, they will use that to then metamorphose or spin the cocoon, and then whatever they don't use for that, they will then actually excrete when they're adults, because as adults, they do have a way of excreting metabolic waste. So that's, that's weird and wonderful. But yeah, I love antlions. Hello there. And of course, they will throw things at an organism that is wandering too close to their pits there. Just gonna whack you, bonk you with the Salt Morning Star. And if we actually look at them here, if we look at them as they are here, notice these spines over here. These are more or less forward pointing. And that's amazing. It's an amazing adaptation because as they grab onto something that falls into their pit, like the one in the pit that we passed, as something falls in, these things may be up to twice or more their size, and yet they have got to maintain their position in the pit. So the majority of the body of this antlion will be buried in the sand, only their head, or really only mainly the jaws actually sticking out, and these spines are then basically digging into the sand grains around them, and giving them purchase, giving them a grip, holding on obviously with their legs in the sand as well, but these spines are forward facing so that when they grab onto something, it's very difficult for that something to actually pull the antlion out of the sand. Because once this antlion is out of the sand, they are a little bit more vulnerable to attack. And I'm not sure about you guys, but when I was a kid, we did try to get them out of their holes quite a lot, out of their pits. And there's even a rhyme that we used to say when we try to get them out of their pit. Now, of course, me being Afrikaans, that rhyme is in Afrikaans. But then, of course, there are these rhymes in many languages around the world. In Afrikaans, it's basically Molletjie, molletjie, kom toch uit. As jy nie wil uit nie, dan maak ek jou dood. Or sometimes, Yuri, Yuri, botter en brood. As ek jou kry, dan slat ek jou dood. So the translation of that would be, the first one is little mole. For some reason, we called them little moles because even though we knew they were insects, they dig around like little moles. So we call them little moles, little moles. Oh, and before I jump off, let me equip that. Yeah. So we call them little mole, please come out. If you don't come out, I'm going to kill you. Basically, so it's a threat to tell him to come out of his house. And as you're doing that, you are wiggling around a little small blade of grass or a thin little stick, starting in the center of the pit and working your way out to try and get the little mole to come out. Alternatively, the Yuri Botter and Brood one, Yuri is just a name, I guess we also like little mole we gave him. So it translates to Yuri, butter and bread. If I get you, I will kill you. Or if I get you, you'll be dead. So Yuri, butter and bread. If I get you, you'll be dead. A lot of threats made against these poor little guys. But of course, they are very useful pest controls if you don't like ants. You know, brilliant. Antlion. It's got the word ant in its name. But when they are then adults, they will then also be predators in many species. They will be feeding on all kinds of insects that they catch, but some of them will actually be feeding on pollen. And it's quite possible that they do then pollinate the plants that they visit. By eating some of the pollen will also get stuck to their bodies, and they can then pollinate them by going to another similar flower, and of course the pollen gets dumped on that flower there. But antlions can really be massive in size, ranging from a few centimeters or 2 or so inches to about, I think the largest we have around here, at least where I am, have a wingspan of almost 20 centimeters, so about 15 centimeters, which will be about 6 inches in wingspan. It's quite a large species. I have been bitten by one of them in the past. They do have quite strong and sharp jaws. I've been obviously bitten by a number of different creatures, dragonflies and all kinds of stuff, usually while trying to save them, not catching them to eat them or something like that, but catching them to release them somewhere else. Now we are heading again to that little pink flower there. As I promised, we are going to be attacking the mantis, and we're going to be attacking the mantis with itself, with a level 9 Scythe of the Blossoms, and with our, hopefully not aphid boots, but hopefully the entire assassin's armor equipped. And we are going to be doing that now. And just to help us, you can see here I have also erected an Orchid Mantis mount, which will hopefully also help us do quite a bit of extra damage against the Orchid Mantis for I think 15 minutes or so. So just to show you what we are using, of course, our assassin's armor. We've got a Salt Morning Star. We're not going to be using that. We instead will be using the level 9 Salty Scythe of Blossoms, because the mantis is weak to salty. It is resistant to everything on here, but hopefully the speed of the scythe will actually help us to negate this resistance, the resistances over here. We are now going to put Apex Predator on. We're also going to put Trapper Peeper on, just to do extra damage against them. We're not going to have Guard Dog. We are going to have Buff Lungs, Meat Shield, Coup de Grace, of course, and then Apex Predator. So those 5 we are going to have on. Now our armor is also quite highly upgraded. Our greaves here are level 7, and the chest plate and the mask would be level 8. And together they do critical stun, which is that any critical hits that I get will apply additional stun damage. We have a critical train, which means that as you do a critical hit, there's a greater chance for more critical hits. Your critical hits do more damage due to yoked blows. And then, of course, it's Catman as well, with the critical hits causing enemies to bleed. So if we can get a critical hit in, that will really help us with this build. Unfortunately, I forgot to make some Larvania for us to actually increase the critical hit chance. However, we do have a Black Ox Burger, which will give us more health and resist some damage for basically the day, I do believe. So, in preparation, let's use the Orchid Mantis mount. That is going to, for 15 minutes, I've got more damage against the Mantis. So let's go and hit the Mantis with itself. Well now, let's do this. Hello Mantis, it has been a while. It's been more than a month since I last recorded a video, since we actually came in to come and kill you, and we are back. Will you look at that? Ha ha ha. Blocking. Okay, this is actually going surprisingly well. Relatively well. Of course, the raising of arms, as I mentioned previously, would really be a defensive posture that it would have. Oh yes. I really have to remember all these different attacks that it will have. Whew, that is devastating. Okay, let's drink some smoothie over here. Okay, but interestingly enough, I really find it interesting. It seems at this point that everything really is related to them, but the closest relative of mantises are cockroaches and termites. Again. So they really are... The cockroaches and termites are related to so many different things, including mantises. Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, I really should get away from that attack. But the mantis here, really well done. I mean, I really can't fault the way it looks. But as I've mentioned before, they wouldn't be found in eastern USA. Instead, there will be a whole bunch of other mantis species that are found there. But just notice these spikes on the forelimbs over here, on the raptorial forelimbs, as they are called. Really there to hold on to any prey unfortunate enough to actually get gripped by the mantis. And of course, they bring that in with the scythe over here as well. Really well done, the way they use, the way the creatures look when you make stuff from them, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Now, really very good eyesight, as I've mentioned as well, with the mantises, with the mantis over here. Now, the mantis over here have got these raptorial forelimbs, but they're not the only creatures that actually have this. There are groups of, well, they call them mantid flies, mantispits, which look very similar to the mantis. They also have the raptorial forelimbs, and they also are predatory. We'll use them to catch their prey. But this is a form of convergent evolution, which basically is when two organisms which are not closely related to one another, generally not closely related to one another, end up looking very similar. So with convergent evolution, if the feature you're looking at, like for example these raptorial forelimbs over here, were not present in the last common ancestor, so the last ancestor that the mantids and the mantispits, for example, shared, but now they have this, then that is convergent evolution. It means that they, over time, since they had their last common ancestor, both have evolved the same trait to fulfill the same function. And that's what happened with the mantids and the mantispits. So they look very similar, and that's because they share the same function, the forelimbs. Hello there. Oh, that's beautiful. And deadly, of course, as well. Oh, we're almost done. And there it is. Okay. Now, that didn't go too bad. It didn't go quite as well as I had hoped, but it did not go too poorly. I'm quite happy. Hello there, little one. Shame. Okay, so now that we have officially gone and beat the mantis with itself, let us go out again. Now, of course, this series is drawing to a close now. Very soon we will be finishing up. I do, of course, want 100% with this game, so I still have, I think, 15 molars to go and find along the yard, and I've got to go and do that, and I think 2 or 3 scabbies that I've got to find. So there's a little bit for me to do off screen, but hopefully we'll be able to finish the game in 2 weeks, or by 2 weeks. So when we do, however, we have to do another series, and of course I have had you guys vote on the community tab on my channel for which series you want to see, and it was a very tight one between Subnautica and Ark Survival Evolved, but eventually the winner is, drumroll please, Ark Survival Evolved. So that is going to be the next game we go into, and that's going to be quite exciting. I am very much looking forward to that, because there are a lot of things I can talk about there. Things like extinction and why certain species went extinct, the way those certain species functioned, and things like island biogeography, which is really one of my fascinating field of studies, or the field of study that I am most interested in. That's what my PhD has been dealing with the past few years. And yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to that. That is then going to be our next big game that we are going to be playing. And then there is also a little announcement that I will be making hopefully soon. That's something I've been thinking about and working on a little bit on the sideline, little extra project I've been working on. But I will let you guys know about that when the time is right. For now, though, thank you all for joining me on this little adventure. I hope you learned something new, even if it was not that long and, I think, educational episode. At least we did do something. We did, of course, finish one of the mixes. We're going to do some of the other mixes next episode. And we also did beat the Mantis with itself. So just, it works quite well. But you've got to... I should be blocking a little bit more. Oh, I also should have put on Thor's pendant. But anyway, hope you guys have had a wonderful day. Hope you guys are doing marvelously. And that this year is treating you all very, very well. So until Tuesday then, everybody, please do stay safe. I will see you all soon. Hello there, Sir Fred. How are you today? Yes, hello, hello, hello. Anyway, goodbye, everybody. See you guys next week. Bye.